Hello everyone, my name is Sierra Burris and I'm going to be talking to you about Chapter 12, Internet of Things, or as I will refer to it throughout this lecture as IoT. First, let's get started into me telling you what Internet of Things is. The book defines it as the developing connection of objects and devices through computer-based networks. And I define it as the concept of basically connecting any device with an on and off switch to the internet. And this includes cell phones, coffee makers, washing machines, headphones, almost anything used on your daily basis, but it also includes components of machines like a jet engine of an airplane. The broadband internet is becoming more widely available and more devices are being created with Wi-Fi capabilities. IoT involves smart objects, machine-to-machine communications, RF technologies, and a central hub of other information. Now we're going to get into some history fun facts about IoT. There were around 500 million network objects in 2003, compared to only 6 billion people in the whole world. It is also predicted that by 2020, there will be 25 billion connected items that will be operating together on a daily basis, from things in your house such as refrigerators to other things, as I mentioned before, like jet engines. Next slide, we're going to talk about how IoT works. And the first step into making it work is having objects connected to the internet to have a unique identifier for each object, specifically a unique internet protocol address. And with that being said, it means that each item is going to have its own IP address. That means each item is going to have its own identification. Just like each person has their own social security number, each object is going to have their own social security numbers. And then the next step is you're going to determine if the object is active or passive. And when I think of active and passive, I automatically think of active voice and passive voice. And honestly, it's nothing like that. IoT has their own definitions of active and passive, which passive means that it uses an RFID tag, which are smart chips that contain a small amount of information identifying the object. And that's where kind of like your social security number comes into play. Each chip is going to have its own identification to tell what is what and what is connected to the other thing. And then whereas if it's active, you're going to have the capability to initiate the sending and receiving of information. And it's kind of like our brains today. Our brains send out information and it also receives information to tell our other body parts what to do. So you can think of it as that way if you get a little bit confused. And when we add all of those things together, those two things together, we have the Internet of Everything, which then allows the ability to monitor anything that can be tagged. And when I say tagged, I mean such things like its food, clothing, shelter, streets, your coffee maker, your alarm clock, any of your every day-to-day basic things, your refrigerator. And throughout this chapter, I'm going to talk about all of the recent developments that is included into the IoT of everything that's going on. But first we're going to get into the technology part of it, and the technology is basically the entire chapter. This is technology that's been going on forever, but it's becoming more recent, and as time goes by, we're getting closer and closer to things actually becoming true of the Internet of Things. We're starting to see changes in things and things that we don't even think about on our day-to-day basis. It's all coming together when you think of the Internet of Things, the IoT. And you'll get a more understanding as I tell you more about the technology of it. Essentially, IoT is a development for a special set of operating systems designed for IoT devices. And the book gives an example of microkernel OS architecture, which has a complete memory protection for applications as well as OS computers, including device drivers and core system files. And my example is to think about if you set your alarm clock in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and your alarm clock then notifies your coffee maker to make your coffee in the morning. That would be real cool, right? Like, you're asleep at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're rushing to get ready for work, and you don't have time to make your coffee, or you forget to make your coffee, and your alarm clock automatically notifies your coffee maker to start while you're getting dressed or hop in the shower or something. And then on your way out the door, you can grab your coffee. And as technology is developing, there are competing developers also writing codes to allow these operating systems to operate everything. And they're operating things from cars to clothing to construction machines. All of these things are being developed by people in order for us to be able to work them. In our next slide, we're going to talk about the recent developments that occurred. And IoT is constantly developing, that we're not going to be able to cover every single thing in this lecture, but there are 13 primary business sectors to watch while we're talking about technology. And I'm going to mention those right quick. Those are automotive, banking and financial services, consumer packaged goods, energy, healthcare and life services, high-tech, industrial manufacturing, insurance, media and entertainment, retail, telecommunications, travel, transport and hospitality, and utilities. And while those businesses that are interested in capitalizing on IoT, they should consider the 4 core areas of IoT. And the first core is premises monitoring. That premises monitoring tracks customers' experiences at physical locations like stores, branches, and hotels. The second is product monitoring, which tracks products or services after the customers has purchased them. Then third, you have your supply chain monitoring, and that tracks the production and distribution of the operations. And last but not least, you have your customer monitoring. And a lot of businesses do this, and you may hear about this one more than you hear about the others. But customer monitoring it tracks how customers are using and what they are saying about the products or services. And that's just kind of like your Google reviews, but in all actuality, they actually can see you doing it, whether you think so or not. And we'll get into that later. And we're going to go to our next slide, and we're going to talk about smart homes versus connected homes. And there is a difference, and I'm going to give you the definition that the book gave me. A smart home is a closed system that can respond to those who live and manage the home itself with each device. Versus the connected home, which takes those closed systems and integrates them with the service providers and vendors so that they can share information in order to maximize services. And companies including General Electric, Sony, and Samsung has been moving forward with innovation and connectivity in the home. And the first and most obvious connection of market industries that seek to benefit from the connectivity is home industries. And that's when your smartphone comes into play. And the smartphone of the home industries is the number one choice. And the apps that you download on your smartphone will interact with the things inside of your house. For example, while you're on a subway, saying you're going somewhere, and you forget to you put your clothes in the washing machine, but you forget to start it. So you can take the app, go to your washing machine, and start your wash machine. That's so cool. And then by the time you get home, your clothes will be washed and be ready to put in the dryer. Or another example that I personally use, I don't have house keys in my house. I have a pad on my front door that I push numbers into to get inside my house. Also on that app, I have a camera inside the house. I'm able to look inside my house and see what's going on. I'm able to see how many times the door's been open, how long the door's been open. I'm able to lock the door. Let's say I'm out of town and I forget to lock the door. I'm able to lock the door from my phone. I can turn the temperature down in the house. If it's cold outside and I turn the air off while I'm out of town, I can turn the heat on my way home, and that way I can come home to a warm and cozy house. I just think that's the coolest thing ever, that you can just operate your home right from your cell phone. Another more recent development of IoT is healthcare, and I mentioned these on the next slide. We think of healthcare more as hospitals, but in today's terms, healthcare can be monitoring your health right on your wrist. Many people have Fitbits, and the most common thing is Apple Watches now. And you can connect those things to your smartphone, going back to being a number one device that IoT is using right now. Your Fitbit, you can connect it to your phone and it'll ring whenever somebody's calling, just as well as your iPhone. It'll tell you how many steps you've taken for today. It'll tell you when it's time for you to go to bed. I think that's the most coolest thing ever. It'll tell you if you're not getting enough sleep. Like, how can you monitor? It monitors your body literally. It's like your personal doctor on your wrist. I just think being able to connect your wrist, a device from your wrist to your phone, and for it to be able to tell you everything that's going on in your body that your doctor can tell you, is amazing. And then of course IoT wouldn't exist if it didn't involve the usage of media. Media is one of the biggest things in society today. The tracking of audience behaviors now allows advertisers to target consumers. And have you ever noticed that if you mention, for example, let's say you want Zaxby's, and you mention it to a friend, and then you get on Instagram and all these Zaxby's advertisements are coming over. That's IoT. And I think it's so weird that I can talk about a pair of shoes, or I can look at a pair of shoes, and it's on every single thing that I look up. I can be on the internet and those pair of shoes are going to pop up out of nowhere. And it just makes you want to buy the product even more. I think that's a cool way of marketing and a new use of technology. It keeps your mind wandering on the same things that you've been using. Another coincidence that many of you may know, and that is being a part of the environment and manufacturing environment for IoT. Within the environment, governments have been monitoring our water and air qualities, and most utility companies now use a smart meter technology to better monitor our usage. And we're able to do it too, and you can just go online and see how much energy you're using so your light bill won't be sky high. I know recently our light bills up in Charlotte has been out of the world, and we're just wondering how is this possible? And you can just go online and see that you're using this much energy. And then one of the most recent developments that I've noticed is transportation. Cars are smart. Every car is like smart from 2014 and up. They can brake before you cause an accident. They'll start beeping and they'll automatically brake and have you like going forward. Actually, Tesla just created a car that actually self-drives for you. I don't know how I feel about that. I was on my way to Florida one day and I just seen this man driving a Tesla and he was like knocked out in his car, and I'm like, how is this even possible? But it's possible. Like, it steers for you. It's so weird. Like, I would be, and I wouldn't be able to do it. But IoT is just like any other medium. There's going to be some concerns about the way that it operates. And on our last slides, I mentioned the two biggest controversies that IoT is going to have, and that's just personal privacy and public security. Technology can expand to the point where the safety and privacy of what you're using can be broken into. People can override programming systems and allow hackers to take over what you're doing. So my question is, let's see, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. With billions of devices being connected together, what can people do to make sure that their information stays secure? And that's the end of the chapter of IoT. Can't wait to see what the new future is beginning in 2020. Oh my God. I'm already seeing in 2018. So how can we make sure that our information is secure and that other people aren't going to be able to track what we're doing? Thank you. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.